Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the LiveU Sports Show. My name is Chris Perry, coming to you live this evening from Barnstable, Massachusetts. Now, this is my second week in this particular studio, and I have to say, we did get a lot of comments about the lack of ducks in this particular studio. So I am very happy to say, James, that after much searching through the house, I looked up and down and all around. I found some ducks.
Chris, I'm so happy to hear about the ducks. You have no idea. But I will say I am getting a little sick of seeing your face, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, true story. I mean, we did probably spend about 16 hours today, and that's a lot.
Yes, it's definitely a lot. But one thing I did want to say before we start the show, we did get a comment about your audio last week, and I know that you wanted to address that. So do you want to tell everyone what's going on with that?
Sure, yeah. So, I've built a lot of studios through the years, and I know how to solder cables. So for this particular microphone setup, I required an XLR cable to a 3.5 millimeter mini cable, but I didn't have one. Fortunately, I had all of the tools to be able to solder that, and so I had to solder the cable together myself. And under normal circumstances, no problem, goes together, everything's fine. But I gotta say, for some reason, what happened is with this particular model of camera, everything's slightly out of phase. So the sine waves don't quite match up between the left channel and the right channel, and that causes the audio to sound a little funny. So it's the camera and microphone cable. The rest of the equipment all functions great. Worth noting, we're using all of our own gear to broadcast this show like we do every single week. So I promise, James, next week we will definitely get this fixed up. So thanks for sticking with us, and we'll move on from here. James, always a pleasure. Thanks for making us look great. For our main story tonight, we head to the Mile High City, where Tim DeLay from LiveU Sports joins us. Good evening, Tim.
Good evening, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Tim, can you talk a little bit about LiveU Sports for those of our viewers who might not know who LiveU Sports is and what you guys do?
You bet. It's one of the smallest sports regional networks, and we cover the Rocky Mountain region at about 10 states. And with our company, KSE, Kroenke Sports and Entertainment, we cover the Denver Nuggets, the Colorado Avalanche, the Colorado Mammoth, and MLS Colorado Rapids. So, that keeps us busy pretty much all year round. And, we're still staying busy, even though this time is very, very odd.
Yeah, so Tim, there's clearly no shortage of news these days, but sports news has kind of run a little dry in terms of what's truly sports related. So what exactly are you guys covering?
Well, what we decided to do is, and other colleagues will know kind of the date, but March, 12th and 13th, when everything kind of shut down with the NBA and NHL season, we at LiveU Sports try to figure out, what can we do to, work with these limitations of all of us, having to work from home and not being able to go into the studio and having nothing to cover. So we came up with this idea of doing a show called Sports Social, which is something that we do on a daily basis from 11 to 1 daily. And to kind of sum it up briefly, we have our talent, our hosts from all of our different on-air products, be it the Nuggets or Avalanche or Rapids. They all get together and they're using Zoom and they're from their homes and they're doing interviews. They're sharing social media stories. They are having guests on from the Nuggets, the Avalanche, the Rapids, the Mammoth, and also too ESPN reporters and hosts and sports writers. And one other thing I want to mention too, which is an important goal, is to also connect with the community by making sure that we're discussing with health professionals, things related to COVID, and also checking in with food banks and having guests on that manage food banks and all that. So we're also trying to connect not only through sports, but also the community, talking about those things that matter.
So Tim, can you talk through the setup that you guys are using? Are you still using any in-station production equipment, or is this all done remotely? And what does that look like?
Yeah, we have a model that's pretty much 95%, not located at our broadcast facility. And so, we're using Zoom as our main platform to connect everybody. And what you're seeing right now is B-roll of my home setup for one of our shows that we do with Outdoor Channel. And so basically, we use a laptop and it plumbs right into a LiveU 600 unit for main transmission, and then we take it from there and we push it to, using Switchboard or Easy Live, we push it to 20 different social media outlets. But I will say, to answer your question, we do use a componentry where we have very limited staffing at our building right now, but we have an engineer on site who has a computer, and they are a Zoom client, and they receive the show there, and then it goes through a flow, because we also air this tape delayed 5 to 7 every night on our linear channel on Altitude, and so that's how we're using one small component back at the station. But like I said, 95% of it's all out there, and here a LiveU unit is like inches away from me right now.
Well, so you mentioned you distribute this on 20 different platforms as well as your linear channels. Was that typical? I mean, has that changed since you guys have had to adapt to this current situation?
Yeah, I think it was the directive of our executive management to try to just cater to all of our fans and connect with them. And so what better way to do that than to go to all the Facebook, all the Twitter, YouTube, you name it, and also our websites. And so, our fans are loyal, devoted, Nuggets fans and Avs fans. And even though we didn't have sports available, live sports, we still wanted to find ways to reach out to them. So if you are a Nuggets fan, or maybe you don't watch the Nuggets, all you're a Rapids fan, it doesn't matter. As long as you're following us on one of our social media outlets, you're going to be able to stay connected with us. And, that was a really important thing. Also getting that message out of, connections with the community too, because, we're all going through this together, and so we're keeping sports talk going as much as we possibly can, as far out as we can, spread the information across all platforms.
So how do you think your bread and butter style programming will change in a post-coronavirus world? And what about the revenue generating component of that? Because that's obviously a big player in a lot of these sports talk shows.
Yeah, it's an important thing, and I think, to start off with, this production that we do, it also serves a great purpose of keeping all of our production folks, active and contributing on a daily basis. This show, we're sharing graphics, we're sharing video that's edited. Our entire production staff is working behind the scenes to keep this show going. So we're keeping our brains, going. We're keep doing all the things that we're used to doing during the season, just at home. And what we're doing is, there's some connections with some of our sponsors and some of the guests that we have on our Sports Social Show to kind of talk about, things that are relevant related to COVID and food banks and things like that. But, I think we're really waiting when it comes to sales connections and everything like that. We're thinking about ways that we can enter this whole new world of possibly having broadcasts without fans in the stands. So we're thinking about how we can, find creative ways to involve our viewers and our fans, to include them, even though they can't be in house. And that obviously will tie in to the sales aspect. But I will tell you, we've got Brand Brigades, our virtual vendor that we use for all of our Avalanche games. And, we're looking at options of increasing their footprint possibly. If we do broadcasts without fans, that kind of opens up some areas for the virtual technology to be kind of spread all over, of the screen in different areas. So we definitely have our thinking caps on, and, our marketing folks, sales folks are thinking of creative ways to involve us on the technical side to see, how we can kind of keep that connection going. Because we really... we have a lot of great fans in the Denver area and in our Rocky Mountain region, and we just want to keep connected with them as much as we possibly can.
So when things start to normalize, and I use the term normalize loosely here, do you think there's any changes that you guys would permanently adopt as in your production workflows?
That is for sure. It's a very fluid situation on the technical side. And, you're also looking at budgets, there's lost revenue. There's so many things to keep in mind during this time. So definitely when we look at this Zoom product that we're using and, going then to LiveU and then, using it to push off the switchboard, Easy Live to all of our different sites, there's definitely things that we feel we can take away with and use after we come back. We think that a lot of our viewers too are used to seeing Zoom and are kind of used to this, and we think that we could probably come back out of this and that being kind of an acceptable platform for us to maybe get content or have our digital folks be able to gain content easily. We're kind of being forced into things that we've talked about, at NAB and things like that, and we're kind of pushing that agenda ahead, if you will. So yeah, there definitely will be ways that we probably limit travel on our way productions, and getting feeds from the site location, and then also trying to find ways to produce our product with our talent and everything like that, and try to personalize it, from a Colorado, Rocky Mountain perspective as much as we possibly can. So, yeah, a lot of my time today is spent working on models of when we get back into the building and making sure that our staff is socially distanced and safe and protected, and trying to be creative. I will tell you, it's a frustrating time, but it also can be exciting too, because you're thinking about new technologies and how you can use them in different ways. And LiveU is definitely a tool that's definitely helping us a lot during this time.
Thanks, Tim. It's very clear to me that altitude, even for a small regional sports network, clearly punches above your weight. Can you offer any advice to other regional sports networks that might be currently looking for ways to extend their content and deliver that to their fans in a personalized manner?
Yes, I will say this. We're very happy with a platform like Zoom. And look, there are, I guess I would offer this. There's a lot of technicalities with trying to get a cloud-based switching solution. And they're getting better at it, but they're not quite there yet. And so with Zoom and us finding out how to use it to share video, to share screens, to use graphics by covering up our cameras, I would look at these kinds of things. I think folks out there are going to cut us some slack in the industry and say, I know that you're not 1080p or 4K right now, and I get it, but it's sure nice to see the people that you're interviewing and everything like that. And I understand that it's kind of fuzzy or the lighting isn't all that great. So I would ask my colleagues to just, it's okay to take a couple hits on some of the technicalities to get the content out there. And so that's something I would offer up. But this Zoom technology is fantastic. It's we're using it in different parts of our organization, and I can elaborate on that if you want.
Tim, I really appreciate all of the time. It's really inspiring what you guys have been able to do, given the situation, and I'm certain that the folks in Denver and the Rocky Mountain area are very appreciative. So thank you for coming on the Sports Show, and I hope you have a great night.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being on the show tonight. Thank you.
And now we head into our remotely interesting segment. It's that time of the show again. That's right. Our very own Janelle Fleming is going to join me right now on our remotely interesting segment as we talk about ways that LiveU can integrate with production switching platforms. Good evening, Janelle.
Good evening, Chris. The trumpet was a surprise, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. I got to keep you on your toes. So, Janelle, as you know, LiveU focuses very heavily on transmission and content contribution as well as distribution. But what we've been hearing from many people are needs for tools in order to be able to do production from home. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. So, before I start, I want to highlight that we actually put together a guide that you can click on. It's in the description of the video below, and also we'll post it in the chat. But essentially, it walks you through the various switching tools out there and how LiveU can integrate. I mean, there's software, there's cloud switching, there's hardware. So I recommend, if you're interested, to click on that and give it a read. Absolutely. Now, there are several known video switchers on the market today. The traditional broadcasters are very familiar with the Blackmagics, the Grass Valley, the NewTek, the Ross, the Sony. These are all hardware switchers and have many variations of of them. And with LiveU, we've been working with them since our inception. You have a physical LU2000 server output and SDI into the hardware, and away we go, right? So what's been interesting to see now is people doing line cut production in the cloud. This is something that we've all talked about in theory, and I think COVID has really brought the necessity to try this stuff out for real. So we've identified several of these cloud switching providers out in the market today. LiveU fashions itself as a, not necessarily a jack of all trades, master of none type of company. We are, primarily in the business of making sure content and transmission is reliable and high quality. So getting a signal to where it needs to go is the most important thing to our customers. So, we've identified a list of cloud switchers that we want to make sure that we're fully integrated with, whether that's Kisui, Grabio, Restream, there's Lightstream, CloudMix, Wild Mocha, there's many more. I mean, I'm sure I'm missing a few of these out there. So that's we went into these platforms, we learned them so that our help desk support can really, advise customers on how they work. So yeah, that's some of the ones that we've identified in the guide below, and what I want to talk about.
So how does LiveU fit into the cloud production picture with the very long list of names that you just ticked off?
Sure. So all of these, service providers, they all have their own niche, I would say. They all bring a different sort of value. So it's, customer's choice, what they want to do. LiveU really brings reliability and high quality, because oftentimes, especially today, right, the network at your home is really getting tested. You have kids at home doing Zoom classes. You have your significant other maybe streaming a show. So connectivity is really sometimes the biggest pain point. So using a bonded network solution to get that first mile to the cloud production service is critical. There's also the pain and the headache of, teaching some remote talent how to set it up, right? A lot of us use Zoom, but not everybody does. But there's other teleconferencing apps that people have to integrate and figure out how to work. With the LU Smart Interview app, you can send a link in a text message, click it, download it, and be ready to go live. So this is a super easy turnkey solution. And if you see a lot of these Zoom and teleconferencings, they're a great solution, but it's a web RTC, it's not broadcast quality. So we sort of bring that level up to that broadcast quality, A game, I would say. And, on top of that, it's super easy to configure, on the back end. So whether you're using Grabio or Restream, in LiveU Central, all you have to do is select the channel you're streaming to, and you can fill in the credentials required. So at least from a control system, it's super easy to do this, whether it's RTMP or HLS or even SRT. We're able to send that video signal to the cloud environment.
So it seems like in a post-coronavirus world, this is a huge opportunity to change the way people produce. Do you see folks going back to the old way of doing things, or some blend of old and new?
Yeah, like I said, this has really challenged us all to try this new equipment. So, even if you've sort of dipped your toe in and thought about it, now you're really forced to, right? So the feedback some of these companies are getting is going to be tremendous. So I see this only improving and only increasing as things start to get back to quote unquote the new normal. What I see on the sports side really are teams trying to find ways. I see it today. They're trying to find ways to produce content cost effectively because it builds new revenue streams, like as Tim was sort of talking about, right? And ways for, the business office to really, generate some revenue. So I see, removing the CapEx and the super expensive way to build this, removing that out of the equation and being able to have a social media person be at their laptop cutting a program, I think is going to just keep, and having the know-how now, right? Having the resources to do it. I see that really growing, and I really am excited to see even the professional broadcasters look to vMix or something like that to do programming. because I think that we're all, the way we work and going into an office is certainly going to change. And again, all of this covered in a guide that I would highly recommend if you guys are interested or considering doing something like this. Please give it a read. It's really just a preliminary research on what's out there. And if you have feedback, of course, we want to incorporate it into this guide. But certainly go to the link, go.liveu.tv, remote guide, and start learning.
Awesome. Janelle, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you on the Sports Show.
Same here. Thanks, Chris.
And my friends, that's going to do it for this edition of the LiveU Sports Show. Next week, nos vamos a Mexico. That's right, we're heading to Mexico to talk about how esports has become a major driver of new content. Also, if you haven't done so already, take those 20 seconds right now, go into your calendar, add June 2nd, 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We have a major announcement for LiveU. That's June 2nd at 10 a.m. You won't want to miss this. On behalf of everyone here at LiveU, thanks for watching. I'm Chris Perry. Good night.
Thanks for watching the LiveU Sports Show.